for the whole family to attend. But when I think of them, I don't think of them having taken place way back in the early 1800s. But why not? Of course they did. They were a lot different then. But the following is a piece that was written about pioneer life in Michigan in the 1860s. And the settlement was located in the Grand River Valley, a heavily forested area of southern Michigan. Again, in the 1860s. And here we go. Let's go to the circus. It was a red letter day when Dan Rice came to the settlement with his little one-ring circus. Not even the tricks of the sleight of hand performer who traveled about from schoolhouse to schoolhouse could compare with the wonders of the circus, of that circus. When the magician pounded neighbor Smith's watch to flinders in a mortar, then handed it back to him safe and sound, we knew there was hocus pocus in it somewhere. But there was no deception in the elephant or the clown that Dan Rice brought to our neck of the woods one long-remembered day in early summer. They were real, and they were quite wonderful. It was before the railroads had reached our vicinity, and the outfit traveled overland in wagons which transported the performers and the meager equipment, mostly tents and seats. Horses were the only animals except for a single elephant, and he was not only a star performer in the ring, but also on the roads. He often was called upon to push the wagons when they stalled in the mud. And I imagine that happened quite often in Michigan on the roadways back in the 1860s. One and only one bridge spanned the little river just outside of town, and the elephant was started across to test the bridge's reliability, but after taking a few steps, he whistled and turned tail for the bank and for safety. The decision of the elephant was instantly accepted as final. The alternative was to ford the stream near the place where we used to drive across in dry season to wet the fillies and set the tires of the wagon wheels lest they drop off, as sometimes did happen. Naturally, we expected to see the teams double up, as was customary with us when negotiating a particularly bad stretch of road. Not at all though. Before the eyes of all the astonished children gathered there, the wagons one by one went down into the drink, and the elephant sedately put his head to the rear and furnished all the necessary power, leaving the horses nothing to do but to provide steerage at the tongue. Wonderful that a single animal should have so much power in his body, brains in his head, and a disposition to be so accommodating. There was no need of a street parade, for we had seen every step of the circus progress into the settlement. The final preparations we watched with bated breath. The ring covered with sawdust, the three workmen driving together on the same stake, the monstrous tent going up, and Dan Rice was the owner, manager, and clown. And when the show opened, there he was, with the ringmaster togged out with all the habiliments of the court fool, a marvelous sight in our eyes. When it is possible that any man could afford for every day such magnificent clothing as the Prince Albert coat and a plug hat, what a figure he made, with his long whip and his devil-may-care attitude towards the performers and towards all the world. And as the curtain raiser, the ringmaster and the clown entered into conversation about a certain of the most prominent citizens of the town, Nate Barlow, Sol Goodyear, Lawyer Holbrook, and Old Doc Upjohn. How in Tunket had they ever become acquainted with these, our most prominent citizens? However, by this means, they worked off the repertoire of standard jokes, and the show then began. And what a show! Such riding! Why, they actually stood up on the horses' backs when went on the dead run, and one of them actually turned a somersault through the hoop covered with paper and came out all right on the other side on top of the horse. Half the boys of the settlement tried to ride bareback for weeks afterwards, but nothing came of it except bumped noses and skinned elbows. One of the mysteries never solved was the amount and kind of local information the clown read off the paper before the rider jumped through the hoop. How it ever got there was too much for us. Then there were the Australian twins who did wonderful stunts on the horizontal bar. only we were saddened a bit by our parents' opinion expressed freely and with the utmost assurance that such people never lived very long. I take it they didn't use nets. Now that first circus came just at the close of the Civil War, and Horace Greeley's editorials had been for years the political Bible of the black Republicans or the North. But Greeley's popularity had waned when he bailed Jefferson Davis out of the federal prison. The people of the timberland, indeed all the North, wanted Davis hung on the traditional sour apple tree. But anyhow, Greeley suffered a fall from grace before even the most ardent admirers, and from an oracle he became the butt of ridicule, fair game for the circus clown. So political humor, probably in the same vein as we get it today with our bumbling idiot president that we have. Sorry. In those days, every circus activity stopped when the clown wanted to say something to the ringmaster. So it was in the midst of one of the most exciting moments. He motioned to the ringmaster, and every man and horse stopped in his tracks. Clown, say, my uncle fell into the mill pond last week. What do you suppose he did? Ringmaster, why, waded ashore, of course. Okay. Clown, no sir, water too deep. Ringmaster, then he must have swum to land. Clown, not by a jugful. My uncle's too smart for that. Ringmaster, well then what did he do? Clown, called for Horace Greeley, of course. Ringmaster, what did he want of him? Clown, why, to bail him out, to be sure. Then we all howled as we were expected to do, and the clown turned a cartwheel and the show went on. One of the main attractions was an Arabian stallion. He was white as milk, and it was some years before we learned that for show purposes any white horse was an Arabian. In plain truth, the one was nothing but an albino, but he passed the test of the times, and we took great stock in the fact that we had seen a real Arabian horse, and a stallion at that. It was the first time I had ever heard the word stallion. This was before P.T. Barnum took to the road with various curiosities like the woolly horse and freaks like Edwin Smith, an old schoolmate of my father who sported a real beard that swept the floor with some 18 inches to spare, and General Tom Thumb, 22 inches boots and all. 22 inches boots and all, sorry. I saw them and other and bigger shows, circuses and menagerie combined with all the appurtenances of street parades, real tumbling, actual horseback riding, and all of that. But not even Fourpaw's 40-horse team or the daredevil performer riding along and unarmed into the lion's cage, or the calliope can dim the luster and the magic of that first one-ring circus of Dan Rice in the vacant lot down by the grist mill again shortly after the Civil War had come to an end. Michigan was a wilderness. Michigan was the frontier at that time. Where I live here in Saginaw, Michigan, the lumbering era was just beginning, and I can see that a small circus like that would draw so much attention to people who had very meager entertainment at best. So I hope you enjoyed that story. A little tale from Michigan's history. I want you all to remember that I love you much behind that computer monitor, and I will be back with you again real soon, God willing. God bless each and every one of you.